let me see if I got this right. You know that you are smart, you're talented, you're the one that they are always labeling the rising star in the organization, right? So, why do you always feel like that star is burning out and fading fast? Because let's be honest, you are doing literally everything. You feel like your kid's Nido, those blocks that they all have now? You're being stretched and snatched in all these different directions, right? You're answering your team's questions in huddle, and when you don't know the answer, you are writing them down so that you can take them to your own one-on-one with your boss and get all the right answers. You're responding to all of the update request emails from all the different stakeholders on your projects, just trying not to miss a single one, even though you have something like 380 unread emails. You probably even found those secret hidden hacks where you can get more notifications only on the really important emails you're getting. Maybe you're even somehow fitting 12 meetings into an 8-hour day. You're making time for that stop in quick meeting with your boss's boss, right? The one where they come in and ask you all the questions about alignment and human capital management and strategic communication or whatever the heck it was he said, right? And then he managed to fit in some random short story about his youth and his younger years in leadership. And you're pretty sure you were supposed to take something specific away from that. But while you were trying to connect all of the dots, you were just hoping that the reason he asked you to stop in was a compliment instead of a you're on your way out type of meeting. That Nido is just getting stretched and flattened, but by the end of the day, it always ends up a cube again, right? Right? So you are just hoping and praying that you are going to end up whole and be just as flexible as the goo inside of that random little brick is. You know that you're capable of doing it all. I know you know that because you've been doing it all, right? You're just wondering how long you can hold it together before you are stretched so far that you tear. And if this does sound like you are in good company, my friend, because this is what I hear from so many of my most successful clients, because many of them started out just like you, high achieving leaders who have always been able to depend on one person, themselves. And for some of them, they still think they could do a little bit more. So maybe you do too, right? You know that you've survived 100% of your bad days. So what's one more? Well, the problem is that you aren't the only person who needs to be convinced that you have this all together. Am I right? Your team right now, they can feel the stress that is just radiating off of you. They can feel it in your huddles when you come in from that prior meeting because you are trying to fit all 12 of them in that day. They can hear you regulating your breathing because they know that you're so stressed out that you need to calm down before you go into the next one. And that isn't the image you're trying to portray to the team, right? Your boss is seeing that you have all of your notes written for your one-on-one, which is great, but some of them are only half comments and you can't remember exactly why you wrote them down in the first place. And if it was important enough to write down, it should be important enough to actually understand and ask the question, right? So you're not leaving them with the best understanding of you either. And all of those stakeholders, they notice that you only respond on those really heavy-hitting emails. They can see that all of those other requests are just going unanswered. They know because they were CC'd on them. They know because they sent them in the first place and they got missed in your sea of never-ending inbox. The problem is, my friend, that you are actually at capacity. You have hit the limit of what one person, even a great high achieving person like you've hit the limit of what that person can actually provide. And we all get to that point, right? We all get to that point where we just have nothing left to give. There is nothing left in the tank. And that's where you get to decide, is this where I'm going to stop? Is this the level that I'm just going to cap out at and run on fumes and breathing practices and maybe a little extra caffeine for the rest of my career? There is another option though, my friend. you can actually grow your capacity. It's just not something that you can do on your own. And honestly, that's where most people think AI is going to come to the rescue. And I'm sad to say that it's just not going to work that way. Most people think that they can just try harder. Most people think that they can just be a better communicator, right? We're just going to listen to this one podcast over here. We're just going to ask ChatGPT how I should have phrased that, and that's going to be better. They try to respond to every email. They try to focus on more of the priorities. They try, and it works to a certain extent, right? It builds work ethic. It builds resiliency. Trying hard is what probably got you into leadership in the first place, right? You got resourceful, you got scrappy, and you tried really hard. So it does work. You have evidence that it does work until it doesn't, because there's only so many hours in a day. There's only so many emails that you can send. There's only so many projects that you can actually prioritize. There is a cap to what hard work can actually do. And most people do stop there. Most people do just say, well, this is it. I can't do more, so don't put any more on me. I'm operating at 150% right now, right? And so they're stressed out, they're frustrated, they have short fuses, they can't answer the questions, and they get too far in the weeds, both with the work getting done and when they communicate it up to their boss or their boss's boss, because they're so flustered. And that's why we get something that's called the Peter Principle. If you're not familiar with it, go ahead and Google it. But it's a book from the 60s, I want to say 69. And it promoted this idea that people get promoted in business, in government, everywhere to the level of incompetence, right? So you're good at the job you're doing, you're promoted to lead that job. Maybe you're good at being a supervisor of this group of people, so you're promoted to manager. Maybe you're okay at being manager, right? So it takes a little bit longer, but eventually you get promoted to director. And if you're terrible, maxed out at director, you just won't get promoted any higher. That's what the Peter Principle says. It says that every person has their max, and you will get promoted up to that level. When we think of the Peter Principle, when you hear it just sort of as a colloquialism, you think of it as sort of this sinister thing. I don't necessarily look at it that way. There's great people, smart people, hardworking people that keep moving up until they hit that wall, until they hit that ceiling of their capacity, and then they just stay stuck. I can honestly say that I have been there before. If you have been around in the socials for very long, you know that I am a runner. I run frequently, and I kind of vary in how far of a distance I go. And I have tried hard, right? Put in my effort to be a better runner, to be a faster runner, to go longer distances, all of those things. But when I wanted to train for a triathlon, not only a triathlon in general, but like a off the grid type one where you were doing things like whitewater kayaking, mountain biking, and some pretty technical trails, and a silly trail run that involves climbing up a mountain of dirt with only a rope and having to actually run through the river at some point, right? All of that wasn't something I could just effort through, but I tried. I tried to put it into Claude and get a training plan on how I was going to be able to train for this triathlon. And as it turns out, Claude can do some pretty cool things. It can create a training plan for you. It can even take into account that I have 3 kids, that I have a job, that I have, this type of area around me that I can train in. And so what did it do? It maxed out the effort that I could put in. It gave me suggestions on how far I should go, how fast I should run, the pace that I should set for myself. Run faster, bike longer, right? Build better biceps. All of those things are great, but you get to the max capacity. You get to the point that that's just not going to do it for you. That wasn't going to give me the experience in this triathlon that I wanted. So then I reached out to a coach. I reached out to Maria with Brightside Running. She's fantastic if you are looking for any sort of coach in running or in triathlons for that matter. And she started asking me some questions. And one of them was, how do you want to feel at the end of this? And I said, I don't know if it's a feeling, but I want to be able to celebrate with my kids, with my family. I don't want to cross the finish line and fall over. I don't want to throw up because I gave everything I had. I want to be able to enjoy the whole experience and get a pretty decent time, right? So what Maria focused on was expanding my ability to train. It wasn't about trying harder. It wasn't about, extending my distances. It wasn't about set your watch to an 8-minute pace and go as hard as you can. It was about how do we make these most critical pieces feel easy? How do we incorporate all of these different types of work, cross training, high knees, fartleks, all of these things to be able to make it feel like second nature when we get to the finish line? The difference is with Claude, I was still using my effort and Claude's information to fill my capacity. But with a coach, I was taking her expertise and adapting it to my individual needs to be able to grow. So if you are a high achiever, if you are this rising star, but you feel like your star is flickering out, you feel like, frankly, I did at the end of a 6-mile run, then you don't have to be this statistic of the Peter principle, right? You don't have to kind of fall into that cynical trap. And you don't have to do it alone. You can't just rely on your own strength, your own effort, and the information that you have pulled off of the internet to get there. You can grow your capacity and lead so that you can walk into meetings not just ready for what's next, right? Not just able to actually show up and be there, but eager to dive into that next priority. Not just making time to stop into the boss's office or the boss's office, but to actually get excited about the update on the project that you have to share because you know that it is the exact one that they wanted to hear about. And that you're not just squeezing in time with your team, but you're actually holding space to help grow their capacity as well. And I want to share a line from a referral letter that I got. I said that this is true of some of my most successful clients, and the way she articulated it was just so beautiful. So I want to share this with you. She said, I am not the same leader I was when we started. And honestly, that wouldn't have happened without coaching. Thank you for believing in me before I believed in myself. Never letting me settle for small. Never letting me settle for small. That is the growth in capacity that I want you to have. I want this effort and this needle block that you are working with currently to feel small and insignificant by the time we are done working together. If you are ready to take this next step, I want you to click the link and let's just set up some time to talk because I cannot wait to learn what is possible for you with your new capacity. All right. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that this was the exact message that you needed to hear today. And take the time to just give me a comment. Let me know what it is that you're working on and what you're putting your effort into today.